Hi, my name is Steve Glazer with the Glazer Law Office. We're going to talk about what you should do and what you should expect if you've been pulled over for a DUI. In Arizona, it is not illegal to drink and drive under certain circumstances. As long as you're not impaired to the slightest degree, or your BAC, blood or breath alcohol concentration, is not above a .08, it is perfectly lawful to drink and drive. So if you want to have a beer or two, as long as you're not impaired to the slightest degree and your BAC is not above a .08, it's perfectly lawful. However, there's a fine line between a .079 and a .08. How do you know when you're above the limit? Well, most people don't. Most people don't know if they're impaired or not to drive, especially if you've had multiple drinks. So let's say you've had multiple drinks, you've had a few drinks, you feel fine to drive. You drive home and you get stopped for a traffic offense. You take a wide turn, you're going 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 miles over the speed limit. You know you've been drinking and it concerns you. What's the officer going to think? Am I going to be arrested? You could be scared, very nervous at the least. What should you do? Well, the police officer is generally going to come up to your window. Could be either side. It's nowadays usually the right-hand side of your car, and ask you, please provide proof of insurance, registration, and your driver's license. When the police officer's at your car, and if the officer notices an odor of alcohol, they will also ask you, have you been drinking? What do you tell the officer? Well, it's a crime to lie to the officer. So I would prefer you just don't tell the officer anything. You can say, sir or ma'am, I do not want to answer any of your questions. Because whatever you say is going to be used against you. At this point in time, this is going to be considered a roadside investigation. You're not in custody. So the officer doesn't have to read you your Miranda rights at this particular time. So never lie to law enforcement. Don't answer their questions. Anything you say can be used against you. If you say, I've had a couple, I've had 3, I've had 5 drinks, all that will be used against you. The officer will then make some observations about you, whether you have slurred speech, bloodshot watery eyes, a flushed face. These are all signs and symptoms of impairment. Then the officer might say, you know what, you've had a few drinks, I can smell alcohol on you, I just want to see if it's okay for you to drive. And you want to know if it's okay for you to drive. So most people cooperate at this point in time. They're going to administer field sobriety tests. They're usually standardized. The HGN, the horizontal gaze nystagmus test, the one-legged stand, the walk and turn. What law enforcement doesn't tell you is that, 1, you are absolutely free to decline to take these tests. They also don't tell you that everything you do is being put under a microscope, and they're going to use everything you do against you in order to prosecute you with. So when you're pulled over, suspected of committing a DUI, decline all field sobriety tests at the scene. All of them, including the portable breath test. There is absolutely no consequence for refusing to do these tests. You have nothing to lose. The officer may or may not believe they have probable cause to arrest. If they arrest you, they're going to take you to the detention center. They're going to request you take some tests at this point in time, whether it's a breath test with the Intoxilyzer 8000, a blood test, they'll do a blood draw, maybe a urine test. If you refuse to take their tests when you're at the detention center, there is a consequence. If you take their test and the BAC is above a .08, there's going to be a 90-day suspension. It's called an admin per se suspension of your driver's license. If you refuse to take their tests, there's a 1-year driver's license suspension. I tell people generally at this point in time, go ahead, take their test. Usually, they're going to have enough evidence to get a warrant to draw blood anyhow. So if you happen to live in a rural community, there's not good public transportation, a 90-day driver's license suspension is a whole lot better than a year driver's license suspension. So I generally tell people go ahead and take the test. There is a consequence if you refuse to take their test at this point in time. And the results will speak for themselves. So, what to do in these scenarios? Once again, do not answer any of the officer's questions related to drinking alcohol, whether it's at the scene or at the police station. Invoke your right to remain silent. You do have to give them your name, your address, but you don't have to tell them how much you've had to drink, when you've had these drinks, where you were drinking, what types of drinks you were drinking. You can invoke your right to remain silent, and you should. When you are on the road and you're stopped, refuse to take their field sobriety tests, all of them. And when you're at the police station, at the detention facility, and they tell you to take tests at this point in time, go ahead and take the tests. There is a consequence if you refuse to do so. My name is Steve Glazer. If you have any questions regarding a DUI, feel free to give me a call. I'm here to help. Thank you.